Usually when we look at a stunning photograph of a couple on their wedding day, there's this powerful illusion of total effortless spontaneity.
Oh, absolutely. It looks like pure magic, you know? Just a completely organic, unscripted moment of romance that they somehow captured by sheer luck.
Right, like they just happen to be wandering through an ancient courtyard, and the sun miraculously dipped to the exact perfect angle, and a gentle, cooperative breeze caught the veil just right.
Yeah, but then you peek behind the curtain into the actual world of event logistics, and suddenly that spontaneous magic looks, well, a lot more like a complex military operation.
Oh, totally. We are talking about a sprawling landscape of interconnected spreadsheets, weather contingency plans, and minute-by-minute schedules. That is honestly kind of intimidating.
It really is. It's a massive undertaking.
So today, we are looking at a comprehensive planning guide titled Coordinating First Looks.
Okay, let's unpack this because our mission today is to uncover the hidden architecture of a flawless event.
Right, and it's a fascinating architecture to explore. Exactly. So whether you are actively planning a wedding, or maybe you're just helping a friend navigate one, or even if you just love studying the logistics of managing large-scale, high-stakes projects, the guide we're diving into makes a really bold claim right out of the gate.
It does. It basically says that stunning wedding photos do not just happen by chance.
Right. They are strictly aggressively engineered.
And that is the core paradox we really have to embrace here, because behind every single effortless, airy, romantic wedding album is a tightly structured timeline and incredibly strategic communication.
Which feels weird, right? I mean, people tend to assume that rigid structure kills romance.
They do, yeah. But the reality of managing an event with hundreds of moving parts, high emotional volatility, and a ticking clock is that without a firm framework, the magic just gets completely swallowed by chaos.
Yeah, if you don't plan for the magic, you just spend the entire day putting out logistical fires instead of, actually enjoying the spark. So let's start with the most emotionally charged part of the day. Ironically, this highly emotional moment serves as the primary logistical anchor for the entire photography schedule, the first look.
Yeah, the first look has fundamentally revolutionized the timeline of modern
Oh,
weddings.
so?
Well, traditionally, the couple wouldn't see each other until the ceremony, that classic moment walking down the aisle.
Right, the big reveal.
Right. But a first look is a specifically scheduled private moment where the couple sees each other fully dressed before any guests arrive and long before the ceremony even begins.
And the guide is incredibly specific about the environmental criteria required to pull this off. Like,
Ah.
you can't just shove the couple into a random hotel hallway.
Oh, definitely not. It demands a really private setting. We're talking botanical gardens, historic venue libraries, waterfronts, maybe enclosed courtyards.
And the emphasis on lighting is extreme in this document. They specifically recommend early afternoon shade.
Yes, the shade is non-negotiable for photographers.
So we are looking for this highly specific Venn diagram of total privacy, top-tier aesthetics, and optimal natural light.
The emphasis on shade is crucial because direct sunlight creates these harsh, unflattering shadows under the eyes and the nose.
Oh, right, the raccoon eyes.
Exactly. Shade basically acts as a giant natural softbox, giving that glowing, even light that everyone wants. But beyond the technical lighting, this scheduled moment serves a massive psychological purpose too.
Right, the guide points out that a first look significantly reduces pre-ceremony anxiety.
It does. It's a game changer for nerves.
It sounds almost like a dress rehearsal for your emotions before stepping onto the main stage. You get to have your private meltdown or your private tears of joy without 150 pairs of eyes watching you.
That's a great way to put it.
But wait, if you were specifically scheduling and staging this so-called private moment, engineering the environment so the shade is just right, with a professional photographer literally lurking in the bushes holding a telephoto lens, does that actually make it less authentic?
That's a totally fair question.
I mean, aren't we just manufacturing a reaction in a sterile environment?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the exact opposite tends to be true. Paradoxically, by controlling the physical environment and completely removing the pressure of an audience, the couple can actually react far more genuinely.
Really? Just by getting rid of the crowd?
Yeah, I mean, think about the cognitive load of that traditional walk down the aisle.
The cognitive load.
Yes, the mental bandwidth required just to execute the walk, you are actively performing for your guests.
Oh, I guess that's true.
You're trying to pace yourself to the music. You are making sure you don't trip over your own hemline, you're acknowledging your aunt crying in the third row, you were trying to remember to breathe.
Your brain is processing a massive amount of external stimuli. When you lay it out like that, you really are in full performance mode.
Precisely. You're almost too busy executing the event to actually feel the gravity of the moment.
Wow, yeah. So by scheduling a first look, you isolate the emotion from the performance.
Mm.
You basically strip away the crowd, the music, and the walking hazards.
Exactly. And the photographers there, sure, but using a long lens allows them to be a fly on the wall, physically distant. And here is the true logistical secret.
Let's hear it.
Getting these high-stakes, highly emotional photos done early is the key to unlocking the rest of the timeline. It buys the couple the flexibility to actually enjoy their own cocktail hour later.
Instead of treating their reception like a pop-up photo studio.
Right, because if you wait until after the ceremony, you are suddenly racing against the clock to cram in every single photo while your guests are just standing around eating appetizers, wondering where you are.
Which brings us to how we actually utilize that time we just bought. If the first look opens up the schedule before the ceremony, how do we allocate it?
This is where it gets very mathematical.
Seriously, the guide transitions from emotional psychology to the strict, uncompromising math of the portrait timeline. The specific time allocations here are wild.
They are very rigid, yeah.
It calls for 30 to 60 minutes for couple portraits, 15 to 30 minutes specifically for bridal portraits, and 15 to 20 minutes for groom portraits. And layered between all of this is mandatory buffer time.
Oh, buffer time is the oxygen of your entire timeline.
The oxygen.
Absolutely. If you schedule a complex event back-to-back with zero margin for error, you are pretty much guaranteeing a failure.
Like what kind of failure?
A misplaced bouquet, a groomsman who can't figure out his bow tie, a sudden traffic jam on the way to the venue. Any one of those will immediately derail the day if you don't have buffer time.
So what does this all mean for the listener who might be trying to build a schedule? It honestly reminds me of building a flight schedule at a major international airport.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right, because if the 9:20 a.m. flight out of Chicago is delayed by 15 minutes, it means a gate isn't open in Atlanta, which means a flight crew times out in Dallas. One localized delay just cascades through the entire network.
Yes, the domino effect is real.
If hair and makeup run 20 minutes late in the morning, that time doesn't magically reappear later in the day. It gets violently stolen from your portrait session.
And that cascading failure is exactly what the guide is trying to prevent with these realistic time blocks. But it's vital to understand that a timeline isn't just a defensive tool to avoid disaster.
It's not.
No, it's an offensive tool to create an environment where creativity can flourish. A photographer cannot capture relaxed, romantic, authentic imagery if they are frantically checking their Apple Watch, barking orders, and sweating because they only have 8 minutes left before the officiant starts the ceremony.
Right, nobody looks glowing and relaxed when they are actively sprinting.
Yeah.
But I want to zero in on the specific math the guide uses, though.
Okay, sure.
Why does the bridal portrait allocate up to 30 minutes, which is almost double the 15 to 20 minutes capped for the groom's portraits? Is that just playing to vanity, or is there a mechanical reason?
Oh, it is entirely about the physics and mechanics of the attire, combined with the technical demands of the photography.
The physics of the dress.
Yes. A traditional bridal gown is essentially a complex architectural structure. You're dealing with multiple heavy layers of fabric, a train that needs to be constantly adjusted, fanned out, and smoothed over for every single new pose.
So it's a lot of physical maneuvering.
Tons of it. You have a veil that needs to be strategically positioned to catch the wind or the light.
So it literally takes physical time just to reset the garment every single time the bride turns her shoulders.
Exactly. And then you have the demand for macro photography.
Remind me, macro shots are the extreme close-ups, right?
Right. The intricate lace detailing on the sleeve, the specific setting of the engagement ring. To capture macro shots correctly, the photographer has to physically change lenses, adjust their lighting because getting that close to the subject often casts shadows, and carefully set their focal point.
Which eats up the clock.
All of that takes minutes per shot. A groom's suit, conversely, while requiring great lighting to look sharp, is mechanically static. You don't have to spend 3 minutes fluffing a tuxedo jacket every time he shifts his weight.
So you are literally budgeting time for the laws of physics. That is amazing.
You really have to.
But no matter how perfectly you budget that time, the guide insists there is one non-negotiable rule you cannot ignore.
Oh yes, the golden hour.
The golden hour rule. You must explicitly carve out 15 to 20 minutes for sunset photos.
Because you can negotiate with your vendors, but you absolutely cannot negotiate with the rotation of the Earth.
So true.
Golden hour is that brief window, usually about 45 minutes right before sunset, where the sunlight has to travel through more of the Earth's atmosphere.
And what does that do exactly?
Well, it scatters the harsh light, creating a soft, warm, diffused, and highly directional glow. It is basically the holy grail of photography.
But capturing it creates a massive logistical headache because obviously the sun sets when it sets, regardless of what's happening at your reception.
Right, it doesn't care about your dinner service.
Exactly. If golden hour hits at 6:45 p.m. and your caterer is scheduled to drop the main course at 6:40 p.m., you have a catastrophic collision of priorities. You either miss the best lighting of the day or you eat a cold steak.
Which is exactly why the timeline must be built backwards from the sunset. You have to locate that 20-minute window, lock it into the schedule, and ensure the DJ and the caterer know that under no circumstances is the couple to be trapped inside during that block.
Wow. Okay, so once you secure that lighting and you finish the highly controlled couple portraits, the guide introduces the most volatile, unpredictable variable in the entire logistical web.
Other people.
Yes. We move into the chaos of the extended family and the wedding party.
The human element. It is the true test of any timeline.
The guide acknowledges that group portraits are usually just a descent into madness and insists on a hyper-detailed, exhaustive shot list. I mean, we're talking permutations of immediate family, extended family, grandparents, and multi-generational combinations.
It's a lot of names to keep straight.
But to actually execute this list, they suggest a life hack, assigning a family coordinator, or a sheepdog.
Yes, and it is arguably the most valuable piece of advice in the entire document.
The concept is that this coordinator has to be a trusted friend or family member who knows both sides of the family intimately. Their sole job is to gather relatives, call out names, and minimize delays.
They are crucial for crowd control.
It sounds like directing a live theater ensemble where absolutely none of the actors have bothered to read the script. But I have to push back hard on this.
Oh, why is that?
Well, if the photographer is a highly paid professional whose literal job is managing the portrait session, why on earth are we putting a guest to work? What if your designated sheepdog gets distracted by the open bar? Isn't it just safer to let the professional handle the crowd control?
You know, that is a very common objection, but it reveals a massive relational blind spot.
A blind spot.
Yes. The photographer is an expert in lighting, composition, and technical execution. But the photographer is fundamentally flying blind in a sea of strangers. They do not know Uncle Bob from a random +1.
Right, that makes sense.
And they definitely don't know that Aunt Susan and Aunt Karen are currently embroiled in a multi-year feud and absolutely should not be placed shoulder to shoulder in the frame.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The photographer doesn't have the family lore.
They don't. Imagine the photographer trying to assemble the groom's extended family. They have to yell over the crowd, "Excuse me, is there a Richard Smith in the room?"
And nobody answers.
Right, they just wait. Richard might be in the restroom or deep in conversation, but a designated family coordinator doesn't yell for Richard Smith. They storm over to the bar, grab Dickie by the arm, and say, "Get over here right now, it's your turn."
Oh, that's hilarious and so true.
They possess the relational authority to command the room. If the photographer loses 3 minutes per family grouping just trying to identify faces and you have 15 groupings, well, you have just obliterated your entire buffer time.
So the sheepdog is the logistical bridge. The photographer manages the camera, the sheepdog manages the humans.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've wrestled the timeline, we've captured the golden hour, we've wrangled the family. Now we have to zoom out to the macro environment.
The really big picture.
Yeah, how do we manage the sprawling web of vendors, locations, and the physical elements that constantly threaten to tear this delicate schedule apart?
This is where we transition from localized event management to systemic project management. The guide highlights several fatal errors people make at this macro level. One of the biggest is underestimating travel time.
Yes, the guide is very firm on keeping portrait locations geographically tight. If you plan to take photos at a picturesque park that is, quote, only 10 minutes away, you aren't accounting for reality.
Not at all.
You have to load a 12-person wedding party into a shuttle, deal with Saturday afternoon traffic, and then unload everyone. That 10 minutes just ate 45 minutes of your day.
And beyond geography, you have the weather contingencies. A professional timeline doesn't just have a plan A. It requires a fully vetted plan B for rain or even extreme heat.
Oh, heat is a big one.
You cannot have a bridal party stand